In July 2009, Reddit was a different place. Smaller, weirder. On July 17th, a brand new account called U26 posted in the main subreddit. The title was 6 words. The end of religion of peace. He died today. 600 upvotes, 127 comments. And hidden inside the dead man's website, buried in lines of HTML no one was ever supposed to read, was a message board for assassins. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this mystery gripped the internet for over 15 years, and why the truth might be stranger than the fiction. A loose collection of forums where anonymous strangers swapped links, argued about nothing, and occasionally stumbled into something they couldn't explain. The full post read, "Milo died today. He died at his desk looking at your site. Milo was a mean old fucker. The spelling was strange, the grammar was off, the tone was wrong, somewhere between a eulogy and a shrug." But the post exploded anyway. Over 600 upvotes, 127 comments. Because Milo, known by his username Religion of Peace, was a Reddit fixture people couldn't stop watching. Since December 2007, Milo had been posting links to his personal image hosting site, LCQP.com. Nicknamed That Old Guy's Image Host, or 2G for short. The site looked like spam, a low-effort image dump full of random photos, many of them explicit, some barely legal. Exactly the kind of thing you'd scroll past in half a second. But Milo wasn't just a spammer. His comment history painted a far stranger portrait. He claimed to be a military veteran who served in the 1950s and 60s. He told stories about trying to strangle someone with piano wire. He was 79 years old and still working in IT. He made Animaniacs references. He was abrasive, dark, and completely unignorable. And then on July 17th, he was dead. No obituary, no details, just a single post from a throwaway account, tying his death directly to the website he'd spent years promoting. Curious Redditors did what curious Redditors do. They started digging. Milo was gone, but the website he left behind was very much alive, and it had been keeping secrets for years. The real story wasn't in the post. It was hidden in the website, in a place almost nobody would think to look. A user named Zaza Kokwan, credited in early threads as the first to go deeper, did something painfully simple. Right-click, View Page Source. For anyone who's never looked at raw HTML, here's what you normally see. Tags, brackets, the skeleton of a web page. But what Zaza found wasn't normal. Buried in the code were HTML comments, those grayed out lines developers use to leave notes, lines that are invisible on the actual page. Lines that form a conversation. These comments were a hidden message board, a secret bulletin board operating in plain sight, visible only to someone who thought to look behind the curtain. And the first thing anyone noticed was the slogan. Burned into the top of the hidden comments, a single line that reframed everything. Dispensing Lake City quiet pills to lousy bastards in need of permanent rest since 1968. Lake City is the Lake City Army ammunition plant in Missouri, one of the largest small arms ammunition manufacturers in the United States. Quiet pills. Bullets. Permanent rest. Death. Since 1968. Milo would have been around 30 years old, right in the middle of the Vietnam War. The hidden board contained more than a slogan. There were codenames, Angel, Shade, 26, the same handle that posted Milo's death announcement. There were internal logs, file access records, references to calendars and operations, and here's the detail that makes your stomach drop. The hidden board contained announcements about Milo's death before the Reddit post went live. Someone knew Milo was going to die, or knew he was already dead, and they talked about it in HTML comments before telling the world. As more Redditors discovered the hidden board, something changed. The messages began to disappear. Some were scrubbed entirely. Others got layered with encryption, and when people tried to crack it, the encryption got stronger. The site changed owners multiple times across the years. Archives on the Wayback Machine got restricted by the current owner. Someone was watching, and they didn't want people reading. A website that looked like spam was actually a locked room, and we had just found the key. But a hidden bulletin board was disturbing enough. When users started decoding what the messages actually said, that's when the story became something much darker. The hidden messages weren't idle chat. They read like job postings, and not the kind you'd find on LinkedIn. Need 2 English speakers, private security at sea. Heavy weapons experience a must. Need 2 English speakers, private security at sea. Heavy weapons experience a must. This wasn't a role-playing game, or if it was the most committed one the internet had ever seen. More postings appeared as investigators kept digging. Contracts for maintenance and translations in Dubai. Montenegro, other locations that map neatly onto global conflict zones. References to bricking iron keys, a phrase some interpreted as encryption hardware, others as literal destruction of evidence. The language was military shorthand, the tone was professional, the subject matter was murder. This is where the dominant theory solidified. The site was a front. A group of ex-military contractors, mercenaries, hitmen, using a gross, unremarkable image hosting site as their communication hub because nobody looks twice at spam. Nobody reads the source code of a site that hosts blurry photos. And then came the event that made the theory feel undeniable. In January 2010, roughly 6 months after Milo's death, a Hamas operative named Mahmoud al-Mabou was assassinated in a Dubai hotel room. The kill was surgical, a team using fake passports, the hallmarks of a professional intelligence operation. Mossad was widely suspected. Investigators looking at the LCQP hidden board noticed something. The job posting's private security Dubai mentions the timing lined up. Was the Lake City Quiet Pills network connected to a real-world political assassination? The theory spread like fire, YouTube videos, Reddit threads with thousands of comments, a dedicated subreddit like City Quiet Pills, that's still active today over 15 years later. For a long time this was the answer, a shadow network of killers hiding in HTML operating since 1968. It was also very likely wrong. For years this was the answer. But a handful of investigators kept digging, and what they found didn't just challenge the theory, it replaced it with something almost harder to believe. We're past the halfway mark. Everything so far has been the story the internet told itself. Now we get to the part that actually happened. French YouTuber Obscuria covered the Lake City Quiet Pills mystery years before most English-speaking creators touched it. And his investigation pointed in a completely different direction. Not toward a shadowy cabal of international assassins, toward a man named Mike. Mike, who also went by Trent the Thief on pre-Reddit forums like Slashdot, wasn't a mercenary. He was a role player. Specifically, a deeply committed member of the Second Life community, active on the Green Emerald server between 2003 and 2009. Mike ran a hardcore sci-fi mercenary faction called simply the Mercs. And if you compare the Mercs' internal communications, their shorthand, their codenames, their entire communication style, to the Lake City Quiet Pills' hidden messages, they are identical. Same abbreviations, same structure. Mike didn't need to be an assassin to write like one. He'd been practicing for years in a video game. And the slogan, dispensing Lake City Quiet Pills since 1968? Mike had indirect professional ties to the real Lake City Army ammunition plant starting in 2002. It wasn't a clue, it was an inside reference, the kind of dark joke a factory-connected IT worker would make. Then there was Madame Yao, Mike's protege. Both were part of overlapping furry communities. Both used the site to blend activism, storytelling, and edgy roleplay, and the image hosting feature that Milo promoted so heavily. It was added later as an afterthought. The real project was the hidden board, the game. The Lake City Quiet Pills site wasn't a front for wet work. It was a playground, the most elaborate, committed, decade-spanning roleplay the early internet ever produced. A group of Second Life players built a fictional assassination ring and accidentally created one of the most enduring mysteries in Reddit history. All the pieces fit. But there's one more layer to this, and it says as much about us as it does about them. One more piece, and this is the one most people never hear about. The roleplay theory didn't come out of nowhere. It was confirmed piece by piece over years of investigation. A detailed 2024 post in our Lake City Quiet Pills, the very subreddit dedicated to treating this as an unsolved mystery, laid out the evidence, and the community accepted it. The accounts connected to the site, Mike, Madame Yao, the Inner Circle, were deleted or went dark around 2017 and 2018. Exactly when the roleplay group reportedly wrapped up. Exactly when you'd expect people to clean house if a private game had gotten too much attention. And the Dubai assassination connection? The one that made the whole thing feel real? A date that happened to line up. A city that happened to match. The human brain is a pattern-matching machine. It sees connections where none exist, especially when the connection is terrifying. Despite over 15 years of digging by thousands of people, dedicated subreddits, YouTube documentaries, archived threads, Wayback Machine excavations, no verifiable crime has ever been linked to the Lake City Quiet Pills messages. Not one, nobody. The most investigated assassination forum in internet history has left zero forensic trace of an actual killing. Some people still believe. You'll find comments arguing the roleplay explanation is itself a cover story, that the it was just a game narrative is exactly what a real network would plant. And you can't prove them wrong. That's the nature of a well-constructed mystery. It resists closure. But the evidence points in one direction. A tiny group of friends, a Second Life server, an inside joke about a bullet factory. And a website so strange, so layered, so accidentally perfect that it became a legend they never intended to create. The Lake City Quiet Pills mystery isn't about hitmen. It's about what happens when the internet finds a locked door, and fills the room behind it with its own worst fears. You now know the full arc of Lake City Quiet Pills. A cryptic death announcement, a hidden bulletin board buried in HTML, job postings that read like assassination contracts, and the quiet, almost disappointing truth: a group of online role players who built a world so convincing that thousands of people spent 15 years believing in it. There's something almost beautiful in that. Not the fake murders, not the edgy slogans. The fact that in 2009, before ARGs were mainstream, before everyone knew what a creepypasta was, a handful of people on a forgotten corner of the internet built something that held us for over a decade. They didn't ask for attention. They didn't monetize it. They just made something. And when people found it, they quietly shut it down and walked away. If you want to go deeper, the Lake City Quiet Pills subreddit is still active, with archives, theories, and first-hand accounts from some of the original investigators. The link is in the description. Some mysteries don't end with a gunshot. They end with a group of friends logging off for the last time and leaving the rest of us to wonder.